What if a relaxing cruise turned into a nightmare? Su-Yeong and his sister Hee-Su step onto a massive cruise ship. Everything seems perfect until a passenger in the VIP line starts coughing violently and no one stops her. At first, it looks like a cold, but then crew members start collapsing, blood spilling from their mouths, and suddenly, monsters erupt from people, attacking anyone nearby. Panic spreads through the ship. Then, in the middle of chaos, a mute girl appears in front of Yu-sung to save him, holding a note that says, "Don't breathe. Every inhale could be deadly." Following her instructions, they run through the corridors, avoiding tentacle creatures, watching in horror as passengers transform into monsters, headless bodies, twisted faces, and relentless monsters chasing after them. In this Manhwa story, every breath could be their last. Will they escape the cruise, or is everyone trapped in this ship, floating nightmare? The story begins at Incheon Port International Terminal, where the siblings, Su-Yeong and his younger sister Hee-Su, are about to embark on a cruise trip for a short, relaxing vacation. Hee-Su is bursting with excitement, while Su-Yeong can only sigh. He tells her that she's the only one getting worked up. Su-Yeong even asks what's so great about it, saying it's just a boat floating around. Hee-Su snaps back loudly, shocked. "What? Don't you know how amazing this ship is?" She excitedly explains that the cruise is a super popular 6-night, 7-day route to Taiwan and Japan. It's a massive ship that can carry over 5,000 passengers, complete with dazzling daily shows, gourmet dining, and even a gigantic water park. To Hee-Su, it's not just a ship, it's paradise. And all of this is thanks to her winning a review event that got them invited. Su-Yeong already feels exhausted listening to her. He mutters that if only their mom and dad were here, his sister might calm down a bit. Hee-Su hurries towards the entrance, while Su-Yeong lingers behind, staring up at the enormous cruise ship. He quietly wonders why he even agreed to come. Still, he tells himself that since he's already here, he should shake off his regrets. He doesn't want to worry his family ever again. Suddenly, Su-Yeong hears loud coughing. He looks ahead towards the sound and notices a commotion. He approaches Hee-Su and quietly asks what's going on. Hee-Su explains that a passenger in the fast lane spat, and it looks like it splattered on a kid's shoes. When Su-Yeong asks what the fast lane is, Hee-Su explains it's the red VIP line for passengers who booked VIP rooms, allowing them to skip the queue. She adds that the woman in the VIP line is clearly at fault, but she's pretending not to notice. Su-Yeong frowns and says someone should step in. The kid looks like she can't even speak. From the VIP line, the woman's husband suddenly yells, irritated. He scolds his wife why she keeps bothering him, cruelly saying the kid is just a retard. Then, without concern for anyone else, he tells his wife to take care of herself, complaining that her coughing is ruining the trip. The woman doesn't respond. She just keeps coughing. The siblings are disturbed by the couple's behavior. They didn't even apologize to the kid. But Su-Yeong says there's nothing to worry about. With that kind of coughing, they'll probably get stopped at the entrance. At the checkpoint, staff begin checking the couple's temperature. Surprisingly, the woman's temperature was normal and she was allowed to enter without any issue. The siblings are shocked. Hee-Su asks how that's possible when the woman was coughing so badly. Su-Yeong brushes it off, telling her she's just being paranoid. He reassures her they wouldn't let an infected person into a sealed space, and even if something happened, quarantine procedures would handle it. As they enter, the massive cruise ship doors slowly close, and an announcement echoes. The cruise Saleho is now departing. Moments later, inside the ship, Hee-Su's eyes sparkle with pure joy. To her, the interior looks like a palace. Su-Yeong, already overwhelmed by her excitement, tries to put on his headphones to block out the noise, but Hee-Su suddenly starts running around. Su-Yeong shouts after her, telling her not to wander off alone. She asks him to take a photo, and then another, and then another. One by one, Su-Yeong takes pictures of her all around the ship until his hands start trembling from exhaustion. He's completely worn out. Then an announcement plays. "Attention passengers, the departure ceremony will begin shortly. Those who wish to attend, please proceed to the deck." Once again, Hee-Su drags her brother along. They run towards the deck, and when they arrive, they're greeted with a breathtaking sight, a beautiful sunset over the sea. Su-Yeong stands there for a moment, quietly watching. He admits to himself that maybe this cruise trip won't be so boring after all. Later, inside an elevator, Su-Yeong repeatedly presses the button, but nothing happens. That's when he notices something strange. Beside the button is a handprint smeared with what looks like blood. He wonders if someone's messing around. Hee-Su asks what's wrong and tells him to hurry up. Su-Yeong explains that he's already pressed the button multiple times, but it won't work. Suddenly, someone taps Su-Yeong on the shoulder. He turns around, and it's the same kid from earlier. The siblings immediately recognize her. She can't speak and uses sign language. She tries to explain something, but they don't understand at all. The kid sighs, then points to a sign that reads VIP Lounge Only. Now they understand. Embarrassed, the siblings leave the elevator and thank the girl. She watches them for a moment before quietly walking away. Meanwhile, in the staff break room, a crew member laughs as he talks about a VIP guest who left most of their room service untouched. He complains that it's gross, but jokes that she'll never get another chance to eat such fancy food. She wishes she could be a guest instead of staff. In the corner, another female staff member stood silently, coughing. Suddenly, she freezes, shocked by something in her hand. She looks down and sees blood from her cough. The other staff member continues talking, mentioning that the guest in room 100 kept coughing. He says that even if the thermometer didn't catch it, it's still concerning. The woman turns to her coworker and calls her Suji, asking if she wants the leftover dessert. But her eyes widen in horror. Suji's body begins to tremble violently, her form starting to change. In a strained voice, Suji gasps, "I can't breathe." The dessert drops to the floor as the woman's legs give out. She collapses, frozen in fear. She tries to scream, to call for help, but something appears in front of her. A horrifying creature, like an octopus-like parasite, reaches towards her neck. It speaks in a chilling voice, "Found you." The scene shifts to other parts of the ship. People are laughing, swimming in the pool, enjoying dinner as night falls. But back in the staff break room, the door creaks open. One of the female staff members staggers out, her head completely severed, floating unnaturally in the air. Meanwhile, in VIP room 100, where the rude couple is staying, the wife speaks softly. She tells her husband that if his business trip was really canceled so suddenly, he could have just rested at home. The husband snaps back harshly, reminding her that she's the one who forced herself to come despite being sick. He mocks her clothes and heavy makeup, asking if she's a hostess or if she's trying to seduce some younger guy. The wife feels humiliated. Without saying a word, she watches as her husband slams the door shut and heads to the shower. Her body trembles with anger. She turns her gaze to the wine glass on the table, her husband's drink, and spits black saliva into it. As she walks towards the other room, the TV plays a news report. The reporter announces that the expensive so-called luxury vaccine released by Ryzen has been revealed to cause serious side effects. These include black saliva, excessive coughing, and more. Some experts argue that vaccinated individuals should be isolated immediately. The scene then shifts to the past. Yu-Song is shown as a well-known and incredible swimming athlete. Since his debut, he has never once lost first place. But now, another competitor, Sungjin, is closing in fast from behind. Yu-Song encourages himself, believing he'll win again. Suddenly, he opens his eyes and found out it was only a dream. Hee-Su appears beside him and asks if he's awake, telling him it's time to go enjoy the cruise. That morning, the siblings feasted at the breakfast buffet, eating so much that even the chef looked bothered. Afterward, they head to a coin karaoke room and have fun, though honestly, Hee-Su is the only one truly enjoying it. Later, while relaxing in massage chairs, Hee-Su asks Yu-Song if this place feels like paradise. Surprisingly, Yu-Song agrees. As they relax, Hee-Su casually tells her brother that she needs to poop. Yu-Song immediately gets irritated. He knows exactly what that means. He ends up waiting outside for nearly an hour, growing more annoyed by the minute. Then suddenly, someone speaks to him. Huh? Isn't that Kang Yu-Song? Yu-Song looks carefully and recognizes him. It's Sungjin, the same man from his dream, the one chasing him in the swimming competition. Yu-Song asks what he's doing here. Sungjin replies arrogantly, saying he travels a lot with his family and came on the cruise to train while vacationing. Then he scoffs, saying it's surprising to see Yu-Song at the ship, considering how expensive the tickets are. He asks how he managed to afford it. Then Sungjin notices Yu-Song's scar on his neck. He laughs and mentions the settlement money from the accident. He mockingly apologizes, saying it's good Yu-Song got a large payout. Yu-Song clenches his fist but calmly responds, thanking Sungjin for the concern. He tells him to worry about himself instead, that thanks to him being gone, Sungjin finally got the starting spot he always dreamed of. Yu-Song smiles faintly and tells him that with him out next season, Sungjin better win. Sungjin grows irritated, clenches his teeth, and walks away muttering that he worried for nothing. Before leaving, he invites Yusong to hang out later at VIP room 102. Hee-Su arrived and was shocked to learn that her brother has a friend. She quickly adds that there's somewhere they need to go right now. Yusong sighs and asks what it is. Hee-Su excitedly explains that one of the top 3 beauty BJs, Hanbit, will be DJing at the cruise water park party. She points at the elevator and tells Yusong they need to catch it. But people rush into the elevator first. As Hee-Su tries to catch up, the rude VIP man from earlier aggressively presses the close button. The elevator doors shut before she can enter. Meanwhile, inside the elevator, the man begins coughing violently. His saliva splatters around, frightening a child inside. The child's mother politely asks him to at least cover his mouth, but the man snaps back loudly, telling her to mind her own business. Later, the siblings decide to stay in their room since they missed the water park party. Hee-Su angrily insults the man, calling him a bald guy who lost not only his hair, but his decency. Yusong simply puts on his headphones and quietly falls asleep. Hours later, the 3-hour playlist on Yusong's phone ends and he slowly wakes up. Wanting fresh air, he steps outside, sipping a soda. Sungjin's smirk suddenly flashes in his mind, triggering a painful memory. In the past, Yusong remembers being shoved by another student, possibly Yusong's friend, who coldly said that if Yusong had just let Sungjin win once, none of this would have happened. In that moment, as Yusong was pushed away, a passing vehicle struck him. The memory fills Yusong with anger, and he decides to return to the room. But as he walks through the hallway, he notices a commotion. Crew members with walkie-talkies urgently request medical support, calling it an emergency. Curious, Yusong turns and freezes. Multiple people are lying on the ground, coughing violently, blood spilling from their mouths. One of them is the child in the elevator. Her body trembles uncontrollably as her mother desperately tries to calm her. 2 medical personnel rush in. One announces that the patient is experiencing severe respiratory distress. The other calls for a defibrillator. Yusong stands frozen, unable to understand what's happening. Then an announcement echoes through the ship. Attention passengers, a respiratory virus is currently spreading on board. All passengers are asked to wear masks at all times. The virus has been confirmed to show only mild cold-like symptoms. Please remain calm and stay in your cabins. Suddenly, before Yusong's eyes, the child's head transforms, twisting into a horrifying tentacle-like monster. Reality hits him. He remembers Hee-Su. Without hesitation, Yusong sprints back towards their room. The next day, panic spreads among the passengers. People demand answers about the virus announcement. Some claim they saw a monster burst out of someone's body. Others shout it's nonsense, insisting it was just a murder case. Complaints about disinfection and quarantine grow louder as passengers demand an explanation. Nearby, Yusong and Hee-Su sit quietly, watching the chaos unfold. Hee-Su asks what happened the night before while she was asleep. Yusong doesn't answer. Instead, he texts their mother, warning her that something is wrong on the cruise ship and that he plans to take Hee-Su and get off as soon as they reach Japan. Yusong stays silent, replaying what he witnessed. He remembers the moment the defibrillator was handed over and how a tentacle suddenly lunged at the medical personnel. Without hesitation, the medic slammed the defibrillator into the creature, killing it. Others who witnessed the scene labeled it a murder, but Yusong knows the truth. It wasn't murder. It was pure self-defense from a monster. But suddenly, Hee-Su starts coughing. Yusong freezes in terror the moment he hears it. Without thinking, he immediately grabs his sister's hand, carefully observing her. After a tense moment, he lets go, whispering to himself that her hand isn't black. He exhales in relief. Hee-Su looks strangely at him and asks why he's acting so weird. Yusong tells her to go back to their room first, saying he just needs to make a quick call and will follow right after. Yusong tries to call their mother, desperate to warn her not to get on the cruise ship, but the call won't go through. The service is suddenly unavailable. He's confused because it was working just moments ago. Then an announcement echoes through the ship. This is an announcement from the cruise management office. A respiratory virus is currently spreading on board. Hearing this, Yusong immediately rushes to their room. He throws the door open and freezes. Hee-Su isn't inside. Yusong turns around, ready to search for her, when suddenly a man stumbles out of a nearby room, screaming, "Don't come! I said don't come!"
Then a woman's head appears. Her eyes glow red. Her neck stretches unnaturally, twisting in a horrifying way. Yusong is paralyzed with fear as he realizes the woman has two heads, one with a normal neck and the other stretched outward, transforming into a terrifying tentacle-like monster. Without hesitation, the monster wraps its tentacle around the man's neck and arm, lifting him into the air. The second head moves closer. With a sickening snap, the tentacle tightens, completely severing the man's head. His body crashes to the floor while his head remains trapped in the creature's grasp. From the neck of the original body, a strange tentacle mouth emerges, lined with sharp teeth. It moves towards the severed head and violently latches onto it. What Yusong sees next terrifies him even more. The man's eyes suddenly turn red, his mouth opens wide, and a small tentacle begins to crawl out from inside. Yusong breaks into a run, completely horrified. As he runs, his mind spirals. Just yesterday, everything was normal. They were laughing, having fun. He reaches another part of the ship, and what he sees is even worse. Multiple people lie scattered across the floor, their heads severed and fused into grotesque tentacle monsters. Headless bodies are sprawled everywhere. Yusong freezes, and then every monster turns towards him. The moment they spot him, they charge. Yusong runs. He keeps running, desperately trying to shake them off. But when he glances back again, a monster's head suddenly appears right behind him, its mouth stretched wide, ready to bite. Yusong barely avoids the attack, losing his balance and crashing to the floor. The monster keeps lunging as he struggles to stand, but a sharp pain shoots through his knee. His leg gives out completely. Yusong collapses, staring down at his trembling legs. Then he looks up and his heart sinks. More monsters block his path ahead. At that moment, someone runs towards him. In his mind, Yusong screams for them to stop, but the person doesn't slow down. Suddenly, a hand covers Yusong's mouth. His eyes widen as he sees a piece of paper held in front of him. Written on it are two words: "Don't breathe." The person is the mute girl from before.
At that very moment, a monstrous head rushes toward them. Yusong shuts his eyes in fear. Blood drips. Slowly, he opens his eyes. The monster has stopped just inches from his face. It lets out a low groan, then moves past him. Just by covering his mouth and holding his breath, the monster no longer senses him. The girl removes her hand and points at the note again. "Don't breathe." Yusong doesn't fully understand, but he nods, following her instructions. She gestures with sign language, telling him to follow her. They run, slipping past multiple monsters. As they move, Yusong wonders how this girl even discovered that holding their breath works. As they continue, Yusong sees a horrifying scene. A woman holding a baby, both decapitated. The baby has turned into a monster, while the other monsters are fighting over the woman's severed head. Yusong's lungs burn. He's running out of air after holding his breath earlier, barely managing to breathe again. Then he sees a body on the other side wearing familiar clothes, the same clothes Hee-Su was wearing. Yusong dashes toward it, desperately praying it isn't his sister. His heart pounds as he grabs the body's shoulder and turns it over. The clothes are identical. At that moment, the mute girl grabs Yusong's shoulder and desperately signs something, but Yusong can't understand. He ignores her. He doesn't have time. He needs to know if the body in front of him is Hee-Su. The girl grabs his hand, trying to pull him away, urging him to run. Yusong resists, unable to move. Left with no choice, the girl turns and runs away. But Yusong grabs her arm and stops her. The girl struggles, trying to break free, and then, in desperation, she opens her mouth and breathes. Instantly, nearby monsters react. Their eyes snap toward them. Yusong clenches his teeth and shouts, "Run!" Grabbing the girl's hand, they sprint as the monsters chase them relentlessly. Ahead, Yusong spots a convenience store. Without hesitation, they rush inside and slam the door shut, locking it behind them. Inside, Yusong and the girl stood, breathing heavily as they tried to catch their breath. But outside, the monsters slammed into the glass door again and again. Cracks began spreading across the glass as it's about to break. Su-Yeong and the girl stepped back from the glass door and saw it starting to crack. Panic Panic surged through them and they bolted just as the glass finally shattered, rushing into the other side of the convenience store. Inside, the monster prowled relentlessly, searching for prey. Su-Yeong and the girl stood behind a fridge, breathing a sigh of relief. The mute girl quickly scribbled another note and showed it to Su-Yeong. "I can't hold my breath for long. Let's wait until it moves away." Su-Yeong nodded in agreement. The girl frantically wrote again, holding up a new note. "And why are you clinging to me when I'm running out of breath? Damn it, if I die here, it's because of you." Su-Yeong immediately apologized. Meanwhile, across the store, one of the monsters lingered by a slightly open fridge. Its senses detected Su-Yeong and the girl's breathing. As Su-Yeong continued explaining, telling the girl about the corpse he had seen wearing the exact same clothes as his sister, a can of soda fell in front of him. He froze. The monster's head appeared suddenly from the fridge, drawn by their breath. Both Su-Yeong and the girl held their breath, frozen in terror. The monster opened its mouth wide and another smaller, parasitic mouth started extending like a tentacle, scanning the area. The girl's fear grew and she began inching away slowly, showing another note, "Follow me." She reached for a door handle, ready to lead them out, but before she could, another monster appeared right in front of her. Shocked, she covered her mouth, but a tiny hiccup escaped. The monster's tentacle mouth twitched, sensing her breath. Su-Yeong lunged to protect her, planning to attack, but the monster behind him struck with lightning speed, its tentacles snatching something hidden in a corner and catching a hidden rat. Both Su-Yeong and the girl froze, waiting as the creature finally left. Seconds passed like hours and they remained motionless, hearts pounding. The girl tapped Su-Yeong's shoulder, showing him another note, "Follow me." Terrified, they moved cautiously, searching for a safe spot. As they progressed, Su-Yeong paused, noticing something outside. The sunset revealed the ship had stopped in the middle of nowhere at sea. Soon after, the girl reached her door and knocked persistently. It creaked open slightly and a voice asked who it was. She pushed the door open and rushed inside, Su-Yeong following. Inside, they gasped, finally able to catch their breath. Su-Yeong turned to see a group of people loudly talking about the monsters, calling them zombies, while others were panicking and paranoid for their own safety. An old woman approached Su-Yeong, offering a piece of candy. She said, "Student, you must have been very scared, right? Want some candy?" Su-Yeong noticed her thumb was bloodied. She handed him a note. "The time of judgment has come," with a cross drawn in her blood. Then the old woman said, "Take this too. Even now, if you believe, you can go to heaven." The old woman walked away, leaving Su-Yeong stunned. Suddenly, chaos erupted as people inside started panicking and fighting each other. Su-Yeong stood in the middle, overwhelmed, asking himself, "How can we get out of here alive? Shouldn't we run somewhere?" As Su-Yeong asked himself how they could survive, a nearby woman shouted to a man loudly, "When exactly is the rescue team coming?" Looking around, Su-Yeong realized there were still quite a few survivors. He wasn't sure if that was fortunate or not. Then he heard a cry while saying, "Sung-Joon is in his room. As long as he doesn't come out, he should be fine." Su-Yeong quickly realized they must be Sung-Joon's parents. The mute girl started walking silently. Su-Yeong approached her and thanked her, but she suddenly slapped his hand, tears welling in her eyes. She tried to use sign language to explain, but Su-Yeong didn't understand a thing. Frustrated, she switched to a different gesture, flipping her middle finger. An old woman nearby knocked the girl on the head and scolded her. "Oh, I told you to use only nice words. Oh my, you're half gone already. What was so important that you went to get? Was it more precious than your life?" Then the old woman looked at Su-Yeong. "Who are you? Do you know Selwa?" Su-Yeong opened his mouth and then froze, remembering the corpse wearing clothes identical to his sister's. The old woman softened. "Kid, if it's hard to talk, that's okay. I know what happened outside." Su-Yeong quickly replied, Yes, thanks for helping me anyway. I need to go look for my sister." Suddenly, a loud scream rang out. Su-Yeong turned and saw a man collapsed on the floor, trembling, bubbles forming at his mouth. His mother cried out, "My son can't breathe. Doctor, isn't there a doctor here? Someone, please." People panicked immediately, thinking he might be infected. A middle-aged man shouted, "There, the firefighter, do something quickly." Su-Yeong calmly said, "It looks like hyperventilation. I've seen it a few times while swimming. There's no black blood, so it doesn't seem infected. If we had a bag, we could fix this." The old woman fumbled in her pocket. "I have one. I used it for bathroom cleaning." Others shouted for the firefighter to deal with the boy before he turned into a monster. Su-Yeong stepped forward and quickly placed the plastic bag over the boy's mouth. Seconds later, the child's breathing steadied. The mother exhaled shakily. "Thank you, you saved my son." Behind him, the firefighter warned, "Student, even so, it's dangerous. Don't step forward like that again." Su-Yeong ignored him. Nearby, two men argued loudly. It was the same rude VIP man from before. A woman spoke up, "Isn't there a weakness to the monsters, like fire?" A ship waiter replied, "Fire won't work. The internal sprinklers will put it out immediately." Su-Yeong watched the child recovering and suddenly had an idea. He raised his hand and said, "Excuse me, if the monsters detect our breathing, wouldn't something like a mask work?" Another man replied, "As long as their breath doesn't escape, it should work." The woman agreed. His idea makes sense. The ship waiter added, "There are portable oxygen respirators in the medical room. They're meant for fire evacuation and were newly equipped on this cruise. If the monsters detect breathing, these vests, only exhaling through the system, are safe. With these, we can reach the external boats." People slowly began to calm down. Then one man raised his hand and asked, "Who's going to get them?" Everyone avoided eye contact. A middle-aged woman yelled, "Why is everyone just sitting still?" She pointed and said, "The men should go, right?" A man shouted back, "Is this lady crazy? What does gender have to do with this? Why don't you go yourself?" The VIP man shouted, "This was all caused by the regular passengers in the first place. Then regular passengers should go. I even got the premium vaccine." For a moment, everyone froze. Then other VIP passengers added, "Right, if anyone should go, it should be the regular passengers." Arguments erupted. Su-Yeong raised his hand and said firmly, "I'll go. I can hold my breath." Another man muttered, "If a young person is volunteering, there's no need to stop them." The old woman snapped back, "What are you talking about? Anyone can see he's a student. I'll go too." A young man protested, "Old lady, are you crazy? If you go outside, you'll just be a burden." The old woman smirked. "Then those young folks who aren't burdens should go. Don't just give advice, volunteer for once." The young people quietly backed away. The old woman advised Selwa to stay, but Selwa signed that she shouldn't go. The old woman insisted she would go with Su-Yeong. Then everyone looked at the firefighter and the muscular man. Shouldn't the firefighter go? Especially him. Are those muscles just for show? In the man's mind, he thought, just because I have muscles doesn't mean I'm fearless. Then he noticed a ship waiter trembling, his arm bitten. Suddenly, he shouted, "Ah, there's a monster. Those are bite marks from a monster." The waiter yelled back, "Hey, I was bitten a long time ago. I'm fine." Panic exploded again. People started running. In the chaos, someone grabbed Su-Yeong's arm. Shamelessly, she pointed and said, "While you're going out, could you take that person with you? At least one young adult man should go with you, right?" Hours later, after a long argument, the volunteers entered a room using a master key. Once inside, Su-Yeong checked the area first to see if it was safe, while the others followed behind him. After confirming the room was clear, the firefighter entered, closed the door, and turned on the lights. Only then did they start breathing again, gasping as they caught their breath. Su-Yeong looked at the old woman and said, "They're lucky no one was inside. Having the master key made things much easier." He then checked his watch, counting how long they had held their breath to enter the room. He set the timer to 3 minutes, thinking that was how long he could hold his breath. Then, thinking about the others, he changed it to 1 minute and 30 seconds, guessing that was probably their limit. The firefighter came up behind Su-Yeong and praised him for holding his breath so long. He gently patted Su-Yeong's head and said cheerfully, "You're amazing, kid. Still, leave the rest to me." Looking at him, Su-Yeong remembered what had happened earlier. When the woman grabbed Su-Yeong's arm, the firefighter stepped in and said, "Aren't you ashamed to pick on a child?" He raised his hand and said he would take the lead, asking if anyone else wanted to volunteer. But everyone avoided his eyes, too scared to volunteer. Su-Yeong thought to himself how thankful he was that a reliable adult he could trust had come with them. In the corner of the room, the crew's staff member began muttering angrily, "What am I, a germ or something? What did I even do wrong?" When the staff member was about to open another room, Su-Yeong shouted, "Wait a second, we haven't checked that spot yet." The man snapped back angrily, "What? There's nothing here. Everyone's obsessed with saving themselves. What, are you scared? Every time I do something, you all start yelling." With that, he slammed the door shut and entered the bathroom. The old woman apologized on his behalf, calling him Gontek. She explained that he could be harsh with words, but he wasn't really a bad person. He was just upset about everything that had happened. Inside the bathroom, Gontek shouted angrily, "Kicking me out just to save yourselves? Selfish jerks? Whatever, since I already changed rooms, I'll just stay here until the rescue team arrives. I'm staying away because you people disgust me." After finishing, Gontek was about to leave the bathroom when, behind the curtain, a monster appeared. He turned around and froze in terror as he saw it about to attack. Meanwhile, the others began figuring out their location and how to reach the infirmary using the fastest route. The old woman pointed to the map, explaining they were on the 10th floor. She explained that normally they would go through the main hall, but if they used the VIP-only elevator, they could reach the infirmary directly. Everyone agreed to the plan. Suddenly, Gontek burst out of the bathroom screaming, "Someone save me!" A monster was right behind him, attacking as he barely avoided it. Seeing this, the firefighter shouted, "Everyone, stop breathing!" At that moment, everyone covered their mouths and held their breath, staring at the monster in fear. The monster slowly moved toward the firefighter and Su-Yeong, while Gontek desperately held his breath as well. On the other side, the old woman and Selwa hid under a table, holding their breath. Su-Yeong ducked down too, glancing toward Selwa. He tried to signal something to her, but she didn't understand. Selwa quickly wrote on a piece of paper and showed it to him, asking what he meant. Suddenly, the firefighter grabbed a floor lamp and smashed it into the monster's head. Everyone was shocked by his sudden action. The monster resisted, its mouth writhing as its tentacle gripped the metal lamp and tightened until it bent. Then it threw it, and the firefighter was sent flying with it. Su-Yeong and Selwa looked at him and saw he was close to losing consciousness. Su-Yeong frantically looked around for an idea, and then he spotted a telephone on the table. As the monster walked toward the firefighter, Su-Yeong and Selwa grabbed the telephone wire and stretched it from both sides. Selwa showed him a note asking what she should do. Su-Yeong wrote back that someone needed to act as bait to draw the monster's attention so they could trip it with the wire. After reading it, Selwa went to the old woman and asked her to hold the wire so she could act as bait. She refused, saying it was too dangerous and that she would do it instead. Selwa insisted she would be the bait, and the two started arguing. Seeing this, Su-Yeong panicked, wondering what they were arguing about. At that moment, Gontek opened his mouth and breathed. Everyone turned toward him as the monster sensed it. The monster charged at Gontek with his mouth wide open, but the telephone wire caught around his neck. Su-Yeong and Selwa pulled from both sides, stopping it from reaching him. At that very moment, the firefighter appeared behind the monster, holding a fire extinguisher, and slammed it into the monster's head. The head was torn clean from its neck, and the body collapsed onto Gontek. Everyone froze, staring at the fallen monster. Gontek slowly lifted his head, stood up, and hid next to Su-Yeong, gripping his hand tightly. Then the firefighter spoke, breathing hard. These monsters, maybe their weak point is the head. Moments later, while Gontek trembled in the corner, the firefighter walked over to Su-Yeong. Su-Yeong spoke first. "Do you have something to say, mister?" The firefighter replied calmly, "Don't hate that lady too much. She was probably just scared." Su-Yeong was confused at first, then he remembered the woman who grabbed his hand. He replied, "Oh, I don't think much about it. I came here to find my sister anyway." The firefighter smiled and said, "Still, you're brave. Thanks for stepping in back there. You saved my life with that monster. You must have been popular at school, huh?" Hearing that, Su-Yeong looked down. He told himself he wasn't brave at all. A memory flashed in his mind, his friends being bullied while he stood there doing nothing. He remembered how he ignored it, pretending he didn't see anything. As the memory returned, sweat ran down his face, filled with regret. Moments later, they left the room and started running down the hallway, carefully avoiding nearby monsters. As they ran, they passed several headless bodies lying on the floor. Suddenly, Selwa stopped. They all stopped running. In front of them were several monsters lying strangely on the ground. Seeing this, Su-Yeong wondered what the monsters were doing. He asked himself, were they dead or just sleeping? While he was confused, Selwa and the old woman started talking using sign language. After finishing, Selwa showed a piece of paper. It read, "We have to decide." The firefighter clapped his hands, drawing everyone's attention. He made a hand gesture signaling that they should go back for now. As they carefully walked away, Su-Yeong kept wondering why there were so many headless monsters on the ground. He didn't remember seeing this many before. He pushed the thought aside and started running again, searching for a room. Using the master key, Su-Yeong opened one door. He peeked inside, then signaled everyone to follow him. They quickly entered. Inside, Gontek was angry. "Can't we just hide and stay here until rescue comes? I'm never coming out again." Suddenly, Gontek kicked a soda can on purpose, sending it flying. A moment later, the firefighter entered the room too, and they nodded at each other. Then, the soda started to fizz, making a loud sound.
Su-Yeong turned and saw that the soda was starting to spray. He told himself it was fine, it was just a sound. But suddenly, a monster appeared right in front of him. Su-Yeong sensed it just in time and barely dodged the attack. At that moment, the firefighter rushed to close the door, but the monstrous tentacle got stuck between it. Selwa and the old woman helped him push the door shut. The old woman asked in panic, "What do we do now?" The firefighter replied, "I'll get a weapon, hold the door." The monstrous tentacle stretched toward Su-Yeong. The old woman shouted, "Gontak, hurry up and help!" But Gontak was shaking, thinking only about running away and saving himself. Just then, the firefighter returned, holding a fire extinguisher, and slammed it into the monster's head. With a heavy blow, the monster's head was cut off and flew into the room. The firefighter looked outside and saw the monster's body without its head. He turned around and said, "It's okay now." But suddenly, a tentacle beside him struck fast, cutting off his head. The monster entered the room, now with multiple heads. One of them was the firefighter's head. Su-Yeong could only watch as he froze in horror.
Then the scene shifts a few days earlier, before the monsters started appearing. While the old woman and Seolwa were cleaning the bathroom, the old woman noticed something and scoffed, "Why do they keep pulling these childish pranks?" Seolwa looked closely and realized it was the same bloody handprint she'd seen in the VIP elevator earlier. Then the old woman, holding the bleach bottle, sighed. "Oh no, we're out of bleach. I'll go grab some from the supply room." As the old woman stood up to leave, Seolwa grabbed her hand and stopped her, signaling that she would go instead. Moments later, inside the supply room, Seolwa picked up a bottle of bleach and started reading the label to make sure it was the right one. As she was reading, she flinched when she suddenly heard lewd sounds coming from the other side of the shelves. Curious and confused, Seolwa peeked through a small gap between the bottles and saw the rude VIP woman from earlier having an affair with a younger guy. Seeing that, Seolwa's face turned red as she thought to herself how shameless they were. She turned around, planning to quietly leave, but suddenly she heard violent coughing. The woman began coughing uncontrollably, black blood spilling from her mouth. Between coughs, she shouted desperately, "My husband, he knows everything!" The man covered his face with his hand, annoyed, and snapped at her for having no manners. But when he looked at his hand, he froze. There was black blood on it. Shocked, he asked what it was. Then the woman grabbed onto him desperately, coughing harder as she shouted, "Come with me. I absolutely can't live with that old man anymore, even if he's Chairman Ryzen. I got vaccinated. There's no way I could be sick." Her eyes suddenly turned red as she screamed even louder, "How can I be sick? You called me a bar girl. You said I'm your woman." The man pushed her away angrily and shouted, "Back off! Shouldn't you go to the hospital? I only came here to satisfy you. Looks like you just have a bad cold. I'm leaving first." He turned away, grumbling angrily, "I hope I don't catch it." But without him knowing, the woman behind him started trembling unnaturally. When he reached the door and smiled, thinking he could finally leave, the woman suddenly appeared behind him, now completely transformed into a horrifying monster. A tentacle shot out, grabbed his head, and yanked it inside, tearing his head off completely. As the monster absorbed his head into its body, Seolwa watched in horror from behind the shelves, covering her mouth with both hands. Terrified, she turned around, asking herself what she had just seen. Something horrifying was coming out of that woman's body. She froze, leaning against the shelves, trying to convince herself maybe she was seeing things, then decided to peek again to confirm. The moment she looked, the monster's head appeared right in front of her, its massive jaw wide open. Seolwa screamed, barely dodging the attack. The shelves collapsed due to the impact, falling like dominoes, trapping Seolwa underneath as she struggled not to cry. She gasped, smelling a strong chemical scent. Looking ahead, she saw a spilled bottle of bleach pouring onto the floor. Quickly, she covered her mouth and stopped breathing to avoid inhaling it. As she held her breath, the monster appeared in front of her. Its head slowly approached, staring at her with an open mouth. But strangely, it suddenly turned away, ignoring her and looking around instead. Just then, Seolwa heard a human voice from another room. The monster immediately reacted and rushed towards the sound. The moment it left, Seolwa stood up and ran. In the other room, the monster was now biting Gontek's arm as he screamed in horror. Behind the monster, Seolwa appeared, clutching a bottle of bleach. Without hesitation, she rushed forward and slammed it into the monster's stretched-out neck. Then she grabbed Gontek and they started running. As they ran, Gontek asked what that thing was, but obviously Seolwa couldn't answer.
As they ran, they reached a dead end and turned around, only to see the monster still chasing them. In that desperate moment, Seolwa covered Gwontek's mouth and stopped him from breathing. She held her breath too, determined not to die. Back in the present, Seolwa slowly stood up, grabbed the can of soda, and rushed towards the monster. She intentionally threw the can out of the room. The monster's head immediately followed the sound of the fizzing can as it rolled away. The moment the monster followed it, Seolwa hurried to the door and started pushing it closed. Hours later, Su-Yeong wakes up, breathing heavily as he slowly raises his head. He looks ahead, thinking that everything that happened earlier might have just been a dream, but then he sees a headless corpse lying on the floor, covered in white cloth. The moment he sees it, the terrifying events from before flood back into his mind, freezing him in place. As he stares at the corpse, he remembers the firefighter's kind words, how he encouraged and praised him. Realizing that the firefighter is really gone, Su-Yeong lowers his head and admits it to himself. The firefighter is dead. He mutters in despair, thinking that even someone so strong and dependable like him died so helplessly, like nothing. Then he questions himself. Can we really survive here? In the end, just like the firefighter, maybe Hee-Su is already lying dead somewhere. But then a piece of paper suddenly appears in front of him with the words, "It'll be okay." Su-Yeong snaps and shouts at Seolwa, What are you saying? How is it okay? The firefighter just died, and I even saw a corpse that looked like my sister. Don't ignore me, at least say something." Seolwa throws a handful of paper at his face. As the papers fall to the floor, Su-Yeong picks one up. Written on it, "When I saw their heads earlier, your sister wasn't among them." His eyes fill with tears as he asks softly, "Really, is that true? If that corpse wasn't Hee-Su, that's enough." Seeing that he's finally calmer, Seolwa breathes a sigh of relief. Then the old woman appears and says, "Oh my, what a sight. That's right. If you're sad, you should cry." Flustered, Su-Yeong replies that he wasn't crying and asks if she's okay. The old woman answers cheerfully that she's lively as ever thanks to Seolwa quickly closing the door. That's the only reason we survived. Suddenly, from the other room, Gwontek shouts angrily, "Damn it, I'm not going out again. Everyone, leave me alone. I'm not leaving this room." Su-Yeong mutters, asking if Gwontek is staying behind. The old woman sighs, "Well, if he insists, we can't force him. Just leave him. Though, is it even safe to go out again? We almost survived if we'd just held on a little longer, but that monster suddenly charged in." Seolwa then holds up a piece of paper, explaining that the monster probably reacted to the fizzing carbon dioxide from the soda can. It sensed breath from it. The old woman brightens. "Really? Then we can lure them with soda cans from now on, right?" But Su-Yeong answers seriously, "It's not like it will blow up every time you throw it, and more importantly, we don't know how far the fizz can attract them. Worst case, one could show up right in front of us again." He slowly stands up, breaks a wooden chair, and pulls off a leg to use as a weapon. Holding it tightly, he says, "If we hold our breath, they can't detect us. We need to get to the infirmary. Rather than just waiting to die, we should at least fight back." The old woman and Seolwa exchange looks, then nod in agreement. Su-Yeong resets his watch to 1 minute and 30 seconds, the amount of time the others can hold their breath. They each grab a weapon, preparing themselves, then move out. Su-Yeong opens the door, and they leave. Inside, Gwontek appeared and muttered, "Did they leave? Persistent idiots. Why not just hide somewhere safe and wait for rescue? What's so great about risking your life for people in the hall? You're just throwing lives away." Still, I do like that every room we pick is a suite. I'll just quietly wait for rescue here. He opens the fridge and laughs. Nice, a suite and a fridge full of delicacies. Meanwhile, outside, Su-Yeong and the others carefully walk through the corridor. Su-Yeong spots a monster lurking around the corner and immediately signals Seolwa. But suddenly, Gwontek steps out of the room. The sound startles everyone. Surprisingly, Gwontek whispers, "I'll come with you." Su-Yeong and Seolwa are confused, thinking maybe he suddenly changed his mind. As they continue moving, Su-Yeong wonders why Gwontek would change so abruptly, but pushes the thought aside as they finally reach the VIP elevator. He and the old woman exchange a nod. Su-Yeong uses the master key, but they're all shocked when it's getting declined. "Please present a VIP card." Seolwa quickly asks the old woman if it was always like this. The old woman explains that when she cleans the regular rooms, the master key opened everything, so she assumed it would work on the elevator too. While they're talking, the elevator doors slowly open, and what they see terrifies them. Inside are multiple monsters, each with 2 or more heads. The doors begin to close, but Su-Yeong suddenly jams his hand in to stop it. The old woman and Seolwa stare in shock, but Su-Yeong is determined. He plans to search the monster's pockets for a VIP card. He turns around and sees the old woman signaling him to come back, while Seolwa is practically calling him a lunatic. Su-Yeong then remembers the sign language Seolwa taught him earlier. Using it, he signals that he will advance. Then he shockingly signals again, telling them to go back while he goes alone. Su-Yeong slowly steps into the elevator. Seolwa tries to rush after him, desperate to stop him, but behind them, Gontek is at his limit, about to breathe again. Panic fills Seolwa and the old woman as the elevator doors finally close. For one last moment, Su-Yeong looks back at them. Seolwa runs towards the elevator trying to stop it, but she's too late. The doors close. Inside, Su-Yeong turns to face the monsters beside him. He resets his watch, timing how long he can hold his breath, confident in his endurance. He notices most of the tentacle heads are pointing upward, so he lowers himself and starts crawling, searching the corpse's pockets for a VIP card. As he crawls, he comes face to face with a headless body, his eyes widening, but he forces himself to calm down. When he opens his eyes again, a monster is standing right in front of him. He slowly reaches towards its pocket, but its head suddenly turns towards him, mouth wide open. Su-Yeong clamps his mouth shut, terrified, but luckily the monster ignores him and slithers past.
Meanwhile, Sewa and the others finally reach a room. They gasp for breath and Sewa rushes to the old woman. "Grandma, are you out of your mind? How could you just let him do that? For a normal person, that's already past the limit of holding their breath." The old woman replies firmly, "So you mean leave Gontak there on the verge of suffocating too? What then? Should we all die together?" Sewa lowers her head. "I told Su-Yeong his sister was alive, without even being sure. I foolishly gave him hope. If he dies, it's my fault." The old woman grabbed her shoulders and said, "Don't say that, Sewa. Su-Yeong went there by his own choice. Even if you hadn't said anything, he would have done the same thing. We have to trust his choice and wait." Elsewhere on the ship, at the pool surrounded by monsters, Hee-Su and another girl are submerged underwater holding their breath to avoid detection. But the other girl can't take it any longer and suddenly bursts upward for air. Hee-Su grabs her hair, pulling her back underwater, thinking that if she surfaces, the monster will tear her apart. She'd rather give her mouth-to-mouth air than watch her get killed. The girl resists, kicking Hee-Su in the stomach, and Hee-Su starts losing her own breath, slowly drowning. Just as they begin to sink, a severed monster head falls into the pool. Hee-Su notices a hand reaching out, grabbing her clothes and pulling her up to the surface. She gasps, taking in air heavily. Looking ahead, she sees a cruise chef wiping a bloody knife on his hand, ready for action. Meanwhile, inside the elevator with Su-Yeong, monster heads surround him. His heart pounds and he begins to run out of breath. He closes his eyes, trying to endure a few more seconds. Memories fled back, the doctor pointing at his x-ray. "See here? We had to insert 10 metal pins. Your ligaments are completely torn, your shoulders unstable, you won't be able to swim anymore." Then, at school, he remembers the whispers of people around him saying, "Serves you right, look at him now, ditching a friend and acting high and mighty." He recalls the friend who pushed him, causing his accident, who now coldly ignores him. But Su-Yeong refuses to give up. He remembers the determination that kept him going in the past, pushing through to catch up in swimming competitions, enduring pain, fighting to survive. Back in the present, Su-Yeong opens his eyes more determined than ever. He crawls slowly, reaching behind a monster's pocket for the VIP card. Meanwhile, Sewa and the old woman are in the room, anxiously staring at the clock, praying for Su-Yeong's safety. Gontak, crouched in a corner, mutters, "He's probably already dead. How can a person survive over 8 minutes?" He starts laughing nervously. "Haha, that doesn't make any sense. Aren't we all going to die like him soon? Survive my ass, we're all going to die, we're all dying." Suddenly, they all freeze when someone is frantically knocking at the door. Terrified, everyone turns. Sewa rushes to the door, despite the old woman trying to stop her. She peers through the peer hole, then opens the door, her face lighting up in relief. Su-Yeong bursts in, covering his mouth. The old woman runs to him. "Oh my, Su-Yeong, are you hurt?" Calmly, "I'm fine." Sewa grabs his clothes, worried, almost in tears. The old woman interrupts gently. "Don't even mention it. Sewa was worried sick about you. She kept saying it would be her fault if you died." Confused, Su-Yeong asks, "Huh? Why would she say that?"
The old woman smiles. You should ask her yourself later. Then Su-Yeong spoke and said, I got the VIP card safely. Is everyone okay? The old woman assures him that they're fine and that they were more worried about Su-Yeong than anything else, that he was pushing himself too hard. Su-Yeong smiles. I'm fine. Then he looks for Gontak and spots him secretly doing something. What are you doing? Su-Yeong asks. Gontak panics and hides something behind him. It's just a chocolate bar. The old woman chuckles. Gontak, no one's going to steal it. Just relax and eat. But Gontak shouts indignantly. Seriously? Why do we have to take care of those people in the hall? Why help those just sitting safely while we're out here busting our asses? He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small butter spatula. I'm not going. Hand over the master key that old lady's holding. Everyone stares. The old woman quips, What are you going to do, spread jam on us? Moments later, outside the elevator, Su-Yeong uses the VIP card to open it. Gontak keeps his eyes glued to the old woman's pocket, precisely at the master key. As the elevator finally opens and they start to enter, Su-Yeong notices someone standing at the other end of the corridor. Meanwhile, back at the pool, Hee-Su carefully watches the monster's severed head. She turns and asks, Just what are you, mister? Can you kill these things? Suddenly, behind the cruise chef, a monster head lunges to attack. Hee-Su yells, Mister, behind you! The chef swings his knife, slicing the monster's mouth in half and continuing to sever its stretched neck completely. His companion cheers. Whoa, as expected of Dae-sik, these monsters don't know whom they're messing with. But then the monster groans and rushes behind Dae-sik. His companion whispers, Geez, Dae-sik, make sure it's dead. Hee-Su watches, terrified. Another survivor assures her, You can breathe easier now. That man is strong. If we follow him, we'll be safe. Hee-Su smiles in relief. Dae-sik shrugs. Luck mostly. It only had one head after all. Hee-Su asks, What does that mean, mister? What do you know? Dae-sik steps toward her, bending slightly. Locking eyes with hers, he chuckles and pats her head. What? I thought I recognized this face. Aren't you the buffet kid? Hee-Su asks what he means. Dae-sik smiles. Don't you know you're famous? A glutton boarded the cruise, wiping out everything every time it was refilled. Anyway, you'll be safe with me. Just watch out for two things. First, avoid those with two or more heads. They're extremely dangerous. And second, as long as it's not a familiar face, you'll be fine. Meanwhile, back at the pool, the girl who was with Hee-Su earlier still hasn't regained consciousness. One of the chefs asks why such a pretty young lady still isn't waking up, then turns to the man beside him and asks if he treated her properly. The man answers that she coughed earlier, so he thought she had already regained consciousness. The chef pinches his lips with his hand and says that maybe CPR wasn't enough, suggesting that he should try it again himself. Just then, the girl finally opens her eyes, only to see the chef's lips approaching hers, his eyes completely closed. Startled, she screams. Dae-sik and Hee-Su hear it and instantly turn their heads. They see the girl repeatedly hitting the chef on the head with a frying pan, yelling, "What are you doing, you pervert? That's disgusting." The chef panics and says that he was really just trying to do artificial respiration, but the girl keeps hitting him anyway. Hee-Su smiles, commenting that she's surprisingly energetic. Nearby, Hee-Su notices a child struggling to breathe while his mother helps him with an inhaler, telling him to take a deep breath and not to be nervous. Hee-Su silently watches the scene. Then, Dae-sik tells Hee-Su that she should go and thank them. He explains that they were just passing by when the child pointed at the pool and said something seems strange, which is why they checked it out. As tears form in her eyes, Hee-Su thanks Dae-sik instead. Dae-sik says she should thank the little kid, not him. Hee-Su nods and says she'll thank the kid too. She admits that she really thought she was going to die and promises to repay Dae-sik someday, thanking him again for saving her. Dae-sik simply smiles and reaches out to pat her head, saying there's no need to cry. Hee-Su dodges his hand and apologizes, asking him not to treat her like a child. She's a high school freshman, she says. There's a brief silence. Then Dae-sik bats her head anyway, calling her a kid regardless. On the other side, the girl notices them and angrily calls out at Hee-Su. Hee-Su turns around as the girl points at her furiously. "Do you know I almost died because of you? Water went up my nose and everything. I won't let you get away with this." Dae-sik immediately steps in front of the girl, blocking her path.
Overwhelmed by his presence, the girl points her frying pan at Dasik and says, "What's your problem? Get out of my way. What's with those eyes? I'm Han Beat, one of Paprika's top 3 DJs. My viewers won't let you." Before she can finish, Dasik flicks her forehead, sending her falling back into the pool again. Then his companion panics, saying, how could he do that to a young pretty girl? Dasik replies coldly that she was noisy and not even grateful for being saved. Turning back to Hee-Su, Dasik asks, "So, kid, why were you diving underwater? Weren't you with your brother?" Hee-Su explains that she was heading to the medical room and fell into the pool while avoiding the monsters. She says she needs to find her brother but doesn't know what to do. Then she asks, "Mister, do you know anything? What are those monsters?" Dasik walks over to the monster corpse and stabs it again, saying he doesn't know the details either. He says this is the first time he's ever seen them too, and that they don't die easily, not even when stabbed through the heart. He wonders why ordinary people are turning into monsters with bizarre bodies, and what would happen if they started swarming in groups. Then he adds that they're heading to the wheelhouse. Hee-Su asks what the wheelhouse is. Dasik shows him his phone and says hers probably doesn't work either. He explains that there are external communication devices there. Hee-Su starts to say that they could send a rescue request from there, but Dasik cuts her off, saying that anything beyond that isn't his concern. Then he shows his phone more closely, pointing to a photo of his daughter and says, "Tomorrow's my daughter's birthday. That's my real problem right now." He looks towards the CCTV camera and explains that the wheelhouse has a situation control room with monitors. Since cameras are installed all over the ship, they might be able to see what's going on and maybe even find your brother if we're lucky. Dasik asks if Hee-Su will follow them. Hee-Su slowly stands up and eagerly agrees, asking where the wheelhouse is. Before Dasik can answer, the girl shouts, "What about me? I don't even have shoes and I'm wearing a swimsuit." Dasik just stares at her while the other chef openly drools. Meanwhile, back at the elevator, Selwa asked Su-Yeong why he wasn't getting inside. After that, Su-Yeong stepped into the elevator and looked back one last time at the monster with the firefighter's head. But before the elevator doors could close, Gontak suddenly ran out, clutching the master card key. Seeing this, Selwa immediately grabbed Gontak by the hair to stop him from running any further. Gontak swung his arm at Selwa to free himself, but as he tried to run again, he tripped and fell hard to the floor. The master card slipped from his hand, and at the very moment Gontak's nose started bleeding from the fall as he shouted loudly, "Oh no, my nose!" The moment Gontak spoke, the monster's head snapped toward him. Selwa immediately covered Gontak's mouth with both hands to stop him from speaking or breathing any further. At the same time, Su-Yeong noticed the MasterCard still lying on the floor, while the monster slowly approached them. Without hesitation, Su-Yeong lunged forward and grabbed the MasterCard. At that exact moment, the monster suddenly charged, ignoring Su-Yeong as it slipped past him. Su-Yeong clenched his teeth. As he raised his hand to strike the monster's tentacle-like neck, he remembered the firefighter and his hand began to tremble. He told himself that he had to do it, reminding himself that the firefighter was no longer alive. With that resolution, Su-Yeong attacked the monster's tentacle neck and immediately ran back towards the elevator, shouting, "Close it!" Selwa began pressing the elevator button to close the doors, while the old woman kept Contakt's mouth tightly shut with both hands. As Su-Yeong sprinted towards the elevator, the monster chased after him. He stretched out his arm and barely managed to slip inside just in time. Luckily, he made it inside before the monster could enter, and the elevator doors finally shut. Inside, Su-Yeong breathed heavily, letting out a sigh of relief as they thought they had finally survived. Suddenly, the monster began slamming its tentacles against the elevator doors, trying to force them open. Everyone inside watched in horror as the attacks continued. Then one of the monster's tentacles pierced straight through the elevator door. Su-Yeong and Selwa turned around and saw Gontak nearly getting hit, nearly pierced by the tentacle. Inside the elevator, the tentacle thrashed violently. Gontak, with his mouth wide open, screamed in shock, "Someone save me, please!" The monster's tentacle then attacked the old woman, but she narrowly dodged, causing it to slam into the corner of the elevator instead. When the tentacle was pulled out of the metal corner, it left a gaping hole behind. The tentacle swung again, aiming straight for the old woman. At that very moment, Selwa saw what was about to happen. Gritting her teeth, she rushed forward to block the attack and was struck instead.
Finally, the elevator began to move, but before the monster's tentacle could be torn away, it thrashed violently once more and lunged at Gontak again. Su-Yeong rushed forward to save him. Fortunately, the monster's tentacle finally ripped apart and fell. Gontak shouted, "What is this? Is it really dead? Someone check it." Moments later, as they all breathed heavily in fear inside the elevator, it finally arrived at the third floor of the cruise ship. The elevator doors slowly opened and they felt a sense of relief, believing they had finally reached the medical facility. Suddenly, the old woman spoke nervously. "Oh my, Selwa, snap out of it. Wake up. What should we do?" Hearing this, Su-Yeong turned around and saw that Selwa was bleeding. Her handwritten notes had fallen from her pocket, while the old woman continued calling her name in panic. Su-Yeong supported Selwa, lifting her onto his back, and said that he would carry her. He asked the old woman to help stop the bleeding from the side. As they moved forward towards the medical facility, Su-Yeong reassured himself that everything would be okay, that once they reached the medical room, Selwa would receive treatment and survive. However, when they reached the entrance of the medical facility, they froze. The door was already covered in blood, with a bloody human handprint smeared across it. Meanwhile, at the VIP lounge elevator, Hee-Su exclaimed excitedly, "Wow, this is my first time riding the VIP elevator." Daesik looked at her and chuckled. Consider yourself lucky, common kid." Hee-Su looked at him and replied that it wasn't even his card. Daesik shrugged and suggested that if she wasn't happy, she didn't have to ride. Hee-Su immediately refused, saying she never said she wouldn't ride. From behind them, the girl suddenly shouted, "That's my card." She pointed at them and continued, "Let me remind you again, I lent it on the condition that you take me to my room, so keep your promise, okay?" Daesik replied, "Wasn't it in exchange for lending you Chen's clothes? Going in and out of the bathroom is a different matter." The girl then said, "Anyway, make sure you take me to my room." Daesik sighed and muttered that she was so noisy. Hee-Su then looked at Daesik and asked what floor the wheelhouse was on. Daesik asked that it was on the 10th floor. As the elevator slowly opened, he added that they were currently on the 13th floor, so they would get there soon if they just went down. When the elevator doors finally opened, they noticed something strange. Inside, they saw the severed monster tentacle from earlier. Hee-Su hesitated and asked if it was safe to ride the elevator. Daesik replied while drawing his knife, saying that they wouldn't die. As they stood outside, Hee-Su noticed something else on the floor. It was Selwa's handwritten note that had fallen earlier, and among the instructions written on it were the words, "Don't breathe." Meanwhile, as Su-Yeong carried Selwa on his back, she slowly opened her eyes. For a moment, she thought she was being carried by her grandmother, and she wondered how long it had been since she lost road on her grandmother's back. As Su-Yeong continued running, Selwa's memories began to surface. She remembered the past when her grandmother had carried her the same way. While they ran, the old woman anxiously watched over Selwa. Selwa quietly muttered to herself, wondering if her grandmother was still okay. As she breathed, another memory surfaced, when she was still young, being strangled by her mother while being told not to cry. She saw her mother crying as she tightened her grip, and at that moment, Selwa questioned why she had even been born in the first place. She remembered how she often visited the ocean, saying she loved it, not because of the noisy surface of the sea, but because of the quiet beneath it, a place where no one could speak. That silence comforted her, and in that quiet place, her grandmother appeared again, smiling warmly at her. For Selwa, as long as she had her grandmother, that place was her ocean. Back in the present, as they ran while gasping for breath, they stopped in front of the medical facility. The door was covered in blood. Gontak stammered, "Damn, are we really going in there? If we do, it looks like we're totally screwed." Su-Yeong clenched his teeth. For him, it wasn't unexpected, because he remembered all the coughing passengers had been ordered to go to the medical room, which meant there was a high chance the area was already crawling with monsters. Su-Yeong asked the old woman if there was a room nearby. They needed to secure Selwa somewhere safe given her condition. Trembling, the old woman replied that there were no guest rooms on the 3rd floor near the medical line. She added that there was a public area on the opposite side, but it was too far. She continued, her voice shaking, saying they couldn't leave Selwa behind. If anything happened to her, she didn't think she could go on living alone. At that moment, Selwa lightly tapped Su-Yeong's shoulder. The old woman immediately asked if she was okay and if she had regained consciousness. Selwa replied that she was fine and told them they should go inside, saying she could endure it. Su-Yeong decided he needed to find the oxygen mask as quickly as possible and put it on Selwa. He told Gontak to carry Selwa on his back. Gontak nervously asked why it had to be him, but Su-Yeong ignored the question. He then instructed the old woman to find a first aid kit as fast as possible. Once she found one, she needed to give Seolwa emergency treatment. Su-Yeong promised that he would somehow find the oxygen mask and bring it back quickly. As Gontak carried Seolwa, Su-Yeong slowly opened the door, still thinking to himself to find the equipment as soon as possible. But when the door finally opened, he saw several monsters lying on the ground, while others were still moving, groaning. Everyone froze in terror. Covering his mouth, Su-Yeong stared at the monster corpses scattered across the floor. He remembered the firefighters' words before, that the monsters' weakness might be their heads. Perhaps the reason these monsters were lying there was that they failed to protect their heads from other monsters. With that thought, he looked around and realized that if he held his breath, he might be able to move without being detected. Meanwhile, the old woman continued searching and finally spotted a first aid kit. It looked unused. She quickly signaled to Su-Yeong and Gontak that she had found it. Su-Yeong felt a wave of relief, hoping the first aid kit would be enough. As he turned his head, he remembered what the cruise crew had said earlier, that there was a portable oxygen respirator in the medical room. The respirator was designed to exhale only through the oxygen vest, making it safe. On the other side, the old woman approached a nearby room, thinking she needed to use the first aid kit on Seolwa immediately. As she opened the door and prepared to close it, Gontak nearly ran out of breath again. Suddenly, the old woman noticed something. At the end of the hallway, a monster appeared. Its tentacle-like mouth sensed their breathing. Then they saw something even more terrifying, not just one monster, but many of them charging towards them. Meanwhile, Su-Yeong desperately searched for the portable oxygen respirator, convinced it had to be somewhere. He reached a door thinking it was the last room he hadn't checked yet, and tried to open it, but it was locked from the inside. He stepped back for a moment, wondering if it was a door that was locked from the beginning. Turning around, he thought there had to be a key somewhere, but searching again from the start would take too much time. Suddenly, he heard a whisper from inside the room. "Doesn't it seem like someone is outside?" Thinking it might be another survivor, Su-Yeong turned back and began knocking on the door, hoping the oxygen mask was inside, but no one opened it. As he continued knocking, Su-Yeong wondered why they wouldn't respond. His breath was running out and he couldn't hold it much longer. Then, the old woman and Gontak stepped out of another room, quietly closing the door behind them. Gontak whispered to Su-Yeong that there was a monster on the other side of the hallway. Hearing this, Su-Yeong knocked on the door even harder. From inside, voices whispered, arguing about whether they should open it. Su-Yeong kept pounding on the door as Gontak reached his limit. Monsters surrounded them on every corner, while Seolwa was bleeding. Finally, a voice from inside shouted, "Hey, get lost! Is there any reason I should open this door? Tell me!" At that moment, the old woman topped Su-Yeong's shoulder. Her eyes were more serious than ever. She pulled out a pen and paper and began writing quickly as Su-Yeong watched in confusion. After finishing, she slipped the paper under the door. The room went silent for a moment. Then, voices inside began arguing again. Finally, one of them said, "I'll open it. Hurry and come in." The door was slightly open and everyone rushed inside just as a monster charged towards them from behind. Inside the room, Su-Yeong bent over, gasping for breath. One of the survivors quickly apologized, saying he hadn't realized it was the grandmother outside. Among the survivors was Sung-Joon. When Su-Yeong looked down at the paper, he finally saw what the old woman had written. She had begged them to open the door before her granddaughter died, swearing at them in desperation to let them in. The old woman suddenly started hitting one of the men, scolding him angrily. "You brat, did I raise you to live selfishly no matter how hard things get?" The man protested, saying she was being too violent. The old woman stopped, then told him to apologize to the others with her. The man turned to Su-Yeong and apologized sincerely, asking for forgiveness. Su-Yeong accepted it immediately. Clenching his teeth, Su-Yeong then turned to Sung-Joon. "Don't you have anything to say to me?" Sung-Joon scoffed. "What? I'm not in the mood to talk to you, so get lost." At that moment, Su-Yeong grabbed Sung-Joon by the collar, his voice shaking with anger. "You're the one who said not to open the door, right? Is opening a door that hard? Because of you, we almost died." Sung-Joon laughed mockingly. "Ha, this beggar punk is acting up without knowing the time or place. What does it matter if strangers die or not?" Su-Yeong replied coldly, "Really? Then I guess it wouldn't matter if your parents died either, right?" Sung-Joon froze, then grabbed Su-Yeong back in shock. "Are you crazy? What are you talking about?" Su-Yeong explained that there was another room where survivors were gathered, and the only way to save them was through this room. He added that Sung-jun's parents were among those survivors. Because of Sung-jun's selfish decision, his own parents had nearly died. The old woman stepped in to try to stop Su-Yeong. She said it was fine now, they had made it inside safely, and treating Seolwa was the priority. The man also explained that they were terrified because Su-Yeong was banging on the door without speaking, which made them suspect he might be infected. A moment later, after they finished treating Seolwa, the old woman explained that if they didn't breathe, the monsters wouldn't be able to detect them. The man added that since the first aid was done, Seolwa should be stable for now. The old woman thanked him with relief. While the old woman and the man continued talking, Su-Yeong turned to Sung-jun and apologized for earlier. He explained, as he had heard, the monsters detected people through breathing, so he hadn't been able to speak before. He apologized again for speaking harshly without understanding their situation. Suddenly, Sung-jun started laughing arrogantly. "Ha ha, you sure have a lot of interest in me, don't you? I trained a little too hard and pulled a muscle, so I got myself checked early. I didn't want to end up a cripple like someone else." He looked at Su-Yeong with mocking eyes and continued, "Shouldn't you be the one coming here every day instead of me? Weren't you doing rehab? Or did they already tell you it's useless? Ha, what a cripple." Su-Yeong felt his fists clench. He knew those words were meant to provoke him, and he also knew they were true. He remembered his senior year of high school when a famous sports university had offered to scout him as a swimming athlete. Back then, his future seemed set in stone. Then came the accident, shattering everything. He remembered asking himself, how was he supposed to go on without swimming? His parents encouraged him, telling him not to lose hope, promising they would support him even more than before, urging him not to forget his dream. That's when he pushed himself harder than ever, enduring underwater as long as possible, training just to survive. But in the end, he was disqualified. According to swimming rules, he had to surface after the turn. He couldn't stay underwater forever. That's when he realized all of his struggles had been meaningless. He didn't even feel sadness, anger, or frustration anymore, just emptiness. Back in the present, Su-Yeong started punching Sung-jun in the face, pinning him to the floor and striking him again. As he punched him, he knew he would never swim again, and he wondered why he was only getting angry now. Just as he was about to punch Sung-jun again, the old woman and the man rushed in and stopped them, shouting for them not to fight. Sung-jun struggled, trying to throw even one punch back, yelling for the man to let him go. Seeing this, Su-Yeong laughed bitterly. "Ha! It looks like the cripple isn't me, but you." The old woman smacked Su-Yeong on the head and scolded him, asking why such a quiet kid was suddenly acting like this. She told both of them to apologize immediately. Neither Su-Yeong nor Sung-jun apologized, they just glared at each other in silence. Sighing, the old woman said this wasn't the time for such behavior, and asked Su-Yeong if he had found the oxygen mask yet. Su-Yeong replied to her, and she repeated the question. He replied that this was the last room, so he still needed to look for it. Suddenly, the man pointed at something and asked, "Is that what you're looking for? I used it as a coaster when I was eating earlier." The old woman immediately praised him, calling him helpful, while the man smiled proudly. Just then, Sung-jun walked towards the respirator, deliberately bumping into Su-Yeong. He looked at them seriously and asked, "So how many of those portable oxygen respirators are there in total?"
Meanwhile, in another part of the ship, inside the hall where the other survivors were staying, the rude VIP man from before suddenly started coughing. When he looked at his hand, he saw black blood mixed with his cough. From behind him, someone asked if he was okay. The man turned around and saw Sung-jin's parents, who introduced themselves as guests staying in the room next to the VIP suite the rude man was staying in. They then asked where his wife was. The man replied that he didn't know, saying he had no idea where she was or what she was doing. Sung-jin's mother spoke next, saying they were anxious because they had been separated from their son. However, since his son said he would stay in his room, they decided to trust him and wait. She added that they felt the need to be cautious because if this was an infectious disease, they could catch it for no reason and pass it on to their son. She laughed and said she probably mentioned something unnecessary, especially since she heard the man had taken the luxury vaccine. She thought staying close to him would be the safest option, considering he was the chairman of Ryzen. Sung-jin's father then spoke, saying that the staff who went out were taking a long time to return, that dawn would come soon, and he wondered how long they would have to stay there. While they spoke anxiously, one of the survivors watched them in silence. Another survivor suddenly spoke, asking if he also felt something strange. He said that if the VIP vaccine really prevented people from turning into monsters, then this whole situation was nonsense. The man asked what he was talking about. The other man replied by asking if he hadn't seen the news that came out before the internet was cut off. He explained that the news revealed side effects from Ryzen's luxury vaccine, including black saliva and excessive coughing, that there were even claims that people who took the vaccine needed to be isolated immediately. He added that after hearing the news, he personally saw people in the cruise coughing violently, with black blood, red eyes, and eventually transforming into monsters. Another man interrupted him, accusing him of spreading rumors out of insecurity. He argued that if only VIP vaccine recipients were supposed to turn into monsters, then the staff shouldn't be transforming either. He told him to stop spreading false rumors out of jealousy. The man snapped back angrily, asking how else the situation could be explained. As the argument escalated, some survivors told them to quiet down. At that moment, a woman noticed something. She saw a cruise staff waiter standing anxiously near the door. The woman approached him and asked if he was okay, saying he had been guarding the door for a long time. She suggested that she could watch it instead and that he should rest. The waiter politely replied, saying he was a staff member and that this was his responsibility. The woman insisted, pointing out that he had been standing there since earlier. The waiter smiled and reassured her that he was fine, gently asking her to return to her seat. He added that he felt uneasy having sent his colleague out alone, and he wanted to stay alert for now. The woman agreed and walked away. However, in the waiter's mind, he knew that the oxygen masks were only prototypes and that there weren't many of them. He planned to snatch them immediately once they were brought in, while another female survivor in the corner started coughing violently. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ship, while Hee-Su was holding Selwa's fallen note, Daesik told her to come out of the elevator, saying it was dangerous and that they were heading toward the emergency exit. The girl protested urgently, saying the emergency exit would take them further from her room and she didn't want to go. Daesik insisted that it was too dangerous to continue and told her if she really wanted to go back, she could take the elevator alone. With that, Daesik started moving forward, while the girl shouted complaints from behind. As they walked, the girl muttered to herself about how uncomfortable her shoes were. When she glanced behind her, she saw several corpses and complained about having to wear clothes taken from the dead. Suddenly, she noticed something, a pair of fancy high heels. She immediately ran toward them and put them on. Even though they were uncomfortable, she knew they were worth 10 million won. She told herself that if she just endured a little longer and survived, she would make a fortune. As Daesik opened the emergency exit door, the girl arrived and threw the borrowed shoes back at the chef, complaining that they smelled. She then mounted her phone to a tripod and started filming as they moved forward, planning to use the footage against them for treating her poorly. Daesik turned around and asked what she was doing. Startled, she replied that she was just recording. At that moment, she accidentally bumped into the boy's inhaler, knocking it out of his hand. The mother scolded her angrily, saying she was careless and that they were supposed to stay close together. The boy said he was fine, but the mother and the girl continued arguing. Ignoring them, the boy bent down to pick up his inhaler. Just then, he heard something fall from above, a wheelchair. Startled, he froze as black blood dripped onto his hand. Confused, he looked up. Above him were monster heads, not just one, but many, their mouths wide open, ready to attack. The boy froze in horror. Daesik immediately rushed forward, grabbed him, and pulled him back just in time. He handed the boy to his father and shouted that they needed to run and find a place to hide. As the father and son ran, the monster remained near the fallen inhaler. Daesik recognized it instantly, realizing it belonged to the boy. The monster attacked, and Daesik sliced its tentacle necks, thinking that as long as he cut them, it would be fine. Suddenly, the monster appeared behind him. It gripped a pipe overhead with its tentacles and chased after the boy and his parents. As they ran, the father reassured his son that everything would be okay. But in the next moment, the father's head was severed instantly, blood splattering across the mother's face. The boy turned back and saw his father's headless body. Hee-Su and the girl froze in terror as they witnessed it. Daesik also saw the body fall. The mother slowly approached her husband, calling his name over and over. Then another monster head appeared. The girl screamed loudly for help, and the monster immediately turned toward her and lunged forward. The chef shouted for her to dodge, but she sat frozen, screaming in panic.
Hee-Su rushed toward her and saved her, shouting for her to snap out of it. At the same time, Father's head is now fused to a tentacle monster and stays near the boy. It lunged again, but Dasik grabbed the tentacle's neck and stopped it. He shouted at them to run to the wheelhouse immediately. The mother didn't respond. Dasik yelled again, begging her to take her child and run. As he struggled to restrain the monster, it turned on him, mouth wide open. Dasik clenched his teeth and slammed his head into it, making its nose bleed. The boy, still frozen, suddenly collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. He called for his mother, but she remained frozen, repeating her husband's name. Trembling, the boy reached out, asking for his inhaler. Watching in horror, Hee-Su desperately thought about what she could do. She looked at the girl, who was shaking uncontrollably, completely useless. Then Hee-Su remembered something, the moment underwater when the monsters didn't attack. She looked up and wondered if water was their weakness. She turned to the chef and asked if he had a lighter. The chef replied he had quit smoking long ago, but he threw her a torch. Hee-Su caught it and turned to the girl, telling her to help carry it. But the girl continued crying helplessly. Hee-Su had no choice but to climb onto her back herself. She leapt toward the fire sprinkler and activated it. Water poured down the corridor. Hee-Su looked at the monsters, thinking it was over. But then the monsters turned their attention to the mother. At that moment, Hee-Su realized water wasn't their weakness. Suddenly, she remembered the note she had seen earlier. Don't breathe. Hee-Su shouted for everyone to hold their breath, but it was already too late. The monsters sensed the mother's breathing and lunged again. Just then, Hee-Su heard Dasik's voice. Well done, kid. He tightened his grip on the tentacles and continued, saying that thanks to her, he had come back to his senses. After killing the other monster head, Dasik pulled the remaining tentacles with overwhelming force. Even as the monster anchored itself to the pipe, Dasik slammed it into the ground and declared that he would cut off every single head of the monster.